It's the urban heat. Shout out to Coach Live. Conversations it's gonna keep you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. On the urban heat is calling. Conversations with Coach La 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 Coach La La. If you got something on your mind, you can call him, you can hit a line. She the realest, oh, she the realest. You can tap in, never always get a business to empower you so that you can do every and anything that you want to. You can hear me, Coach Allen, it's time to listen to conversations that's gonna keep you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. On the urban heat is calling. Conversations with Coach La 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 La. Coach La 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 La.
What's going on? What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Coach La La La. How y'all feeling, y'all? Feeling all right? Well, your favorite around the way therapist is a little down today. Not a lot. I'm a lot down today, y'all. Today's been a rough day. One of my poet friends was found deceased today. So today's show is dedicated to him. Glenn Lucci Furman, I want to dedicate tonight's show to you. You are missed, and in respect to the family. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but my heart is heavy today, and my mind and my spirit is definitely with my poet friend. So you guys are listening to Conversations with Coach La. I am your favorite around the way therapist, Coach La La La. Oh, it's going to be one of those type of shows. You ever had a moment where you're like, things are heavy and the show must go on and you still got to show up. And, that's what I feel today. But I definitely want to, send prayers and thoughts out to all of my poetry community, everybody in my poetry community that's been impacted by today's news. So I've been a busy girl this weekend. I have been a busy girl this weekend. There's so much that I've done. Everyone who was a part of pole therapy on Friday, August 23rd, I want to just say thank you for coming and being a part of my 2-year anniversary. Shout out to my co-host, Mr. James Lambert III. Shout out to all of the poets, Jay Rose, who came down, and storyteller Gordon and Leilani. All of the wonderful people from the Urban Heat family who showed up, my UMass family. It was a beautiful experience. Fred the violinist, and Boston showed up too. So it was a really impactful weekend. Also I want to send love and my condolences, because while my event was going on, there was also some things happening in my community. And I would say, as a psychotherapist, one of my goals is to be a beacon of hope and to be an effective psychotherapist. And all these different things that's been going on has been so heavy. Really, really heavy. Someone lost their life. It had nothing to do with my event or the Mix establishment. Shout out to the Mix. They're awesome Black owned restaurant here in Boston. Food is amazing. Hospitality, customer service is impeccable. But while we're having this wonderful poetry event, there are things happening outside in the community that we have no control over, but impact us, coming out to that, knowing that someone got harmed. They call it vicarious trauma. So we can be impacted by what's going on, even though we have nothing to do with it. It impacts us. So I never want to get so numb or so complacent that that's just something that can just happen and I just kind of can keep moving and keep going without acknowledging that it's not okay. We have to find a better way to manage our stress, our disappointment, our discomfort when things don't go our way. We need healthier coping strategies. We need improved interpersonal skills to really be able to deal with community violence and the things that are going on in the community. The way we cope with things with drinking and self-medicating and, lack of being able to deal with whatever is going on before we project it onto someone else and deflect it onto someone else. We got to learn how to do better with that. So tonight's conversation is sort of grounded in all of that. The gentleman that I am bringing on to share the virtual couch with me this evening. Some of you guys know him as Coach Chris, and he is not a Bostonian. He is from Dallas, Texas, y'all. And when y'all hear him, he got an accent. You can tell he ain't from Boston. He don't stay parked the guy. Okay. He refers to himself as an adopted son of Boston, Massachusetts for the last 7 years. And I thought that was an interesting way to describe yourself. I've heard of transplant, right? But he said adopted. And he is a wellness coach. And I think that's pretty dope. If you follow him on social media today, he was running. He did a 10-mile run. So I'm like, all right, with your bad self, black men run. Okay. But he has a passion of being a community influencer. And I'm curious about what that means. I'm sure a lot of you may think about what that means, but I really think about it being you being a pillar and you being an example of living wellness. So even him running and showing that and being able to post that he was running is an example of being an influencer, and hopefully that will influence someone else. But he has a passion to see not just Black men, but also women and youth be seen as whole. And I think when we think about whole and we think about wellness, these are all part of being able to have those healthy coping strategies and having that level of interpersonal skills that allow you to navigate the world. I don't know what made us think that we were supposed to have everything easy. I don't know what made us think that we wouldn't get disappointed or we won't get hurt or people won't do certain things in life that could make us uncomfortable. I don't know why we think that, right? But how do you deal with it when it happens, right? So he creates therapeutic spaces for men in particularly, and he provides an outlet for men to talk through their problems and find solutions with other like-minded brothers. And I think that that's so phenomenal. I have a 19-year-old son, and I have a good community of men, and I have 3 brothers. And I think that it's really important that we see men and we allow men to be able to talk about the stresses that come along with the roles and responsibilities that we have placed on them. And the expectation that they're just supposed to know how to do it because of their genetics. I think that's somewhat unfair, especially when given that some of them may not have had the models to show them how to do that. And they've had to figure it out by trial and error or by watching other men. So he's an advocate for mental health. He uses his voice to influence change through his podcast and public speaking. And so without further ado, what I want to do is bring on Coach Chris to the virtual couch. So let's welcome Coach Chris to Conversations with Coach La. How you doing?
What's going on, beautiful people out there, man?
How you doing? How you doing?
Oh man, I feel wonderful, man. It's a good vibe going on right now.
Oh yes. Yes, I like to create that therapeutic vibe.
Yeah, man. We here, we doing it, we making it happen, man. But I feel good, man. Excited to be on tonight.
Yes. What's going on, Miss LaDonna? I see you, girl. Thank you for tuning in. So you guys know we stream live on all platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, iHeartRadio, which is the big deal. You know, we are one of Boston's only Black-owned radio stations that is on iHeartRadio. Not that there's not other ones in other states, but in Boston, we are the only one, right? So it's really good to have you here. You know, we here at Urban Heat really pride ourselves in being radio with a purpose, right? And so every conversation I have on Sunday, I know it's at 10 o'clock. And some people say, why you have your show at 10 o'clock? Because this is for the insomniacs, right? This is for the visionaries. This show is for people who are looking for something to help them find purpose.
Yeah.
Looking for not your regular run-of-the-mill conversation, right? I hope to eventually get to a place that there's hundreds and thousands of people on this live, the way they do some of the drama and the gossip stuff and the nonsense, right? Get on, tag a friend, tell a friend, share these conversations. These are the conversations that we need to have, that we actually crave having. Those adult conversations, for all the sapiosexuals out there that need stimulation, right? These are those type of conversations. And I want to encourage people to talk more, right? And to not be afraid to be vulnerable and to sit in difficult emotions. I think part of why we have community violence is that people are like soda bottles, right? They're just shooken up, right? And it's like the acid is in there, and then something happens and somebody takes off the top,
right,
and they just explode.
right.
They just explode all over people, right? Because they're not allowing, I say tearing the top slowly so it can come out.
I like that.
Or give it a second so that they can settle before you try to open it. So tell me though, I gave a little of your background, you being adopted here for the last 7 years, and you're coming from Dallas when a lot of people are communicating going to where you're leaving, right? Where you've left, they want to go to. So what is it? Who is Chris?
Man, listen, I always joke because as a Southerner, as a country boy from Texas, man, I always like to keep it simple. Man, listen, I'm just your good brother that's, looking to, make change in the community, man. Nothing too special. I don't try to get too high, and definitely ain't gonna get too low. But man, listen, I'm just your brother that's looking to just make change, bring influence, just to do something, man, to just impact my community, man. At the end of the day, Chris is jokingly, I'm a superhero. As a young kid, hold on. As a young kid, back in the day, they bring in like the career people, and they're like, what you want to be when you grow up? And I always say I wanted to be the Red Ranger, like the Red Power Ranger. Like I wanted to be the superhero. I wanted to be the superhero. It wasn't the firefighter. It wasn't, the doctor, the lawyer. I wanted to be a superhero. But, fast forward now, I'm like, I'm actually that. I am the superhero out of my community, man. Like I'm saving people. At the end of the day, you're a therapist. I'm a life coach. And I would like to think, like, for the most part, those of us that are, in our particular fields, we're doing it for the people. We want to see people whole, happy, healthy, all of that good stuff. We want to see our community thriving at the end of the day. And it starts, one person at a time. So, yeah, that's who Chris is, man. I'm just a dope brother. They're just looking to make change.
He the Red Ranger.
Listen, man, don't get me started on that.
Oh, he's a Red Ranger.
Yeah,
I don't know. I used to watch Power Rangers. I'm guilty. Raise your hand if you're guilty of watching Power Rangers.
Listen,
I definitely watched it. Shout out Sandra. What's going on, Miss Venus? Thank you, ladies, for tuning in tonight. So everybody on Instagram, thank you as well. I'm navigating multiple systems over here, so I see y'all. What's going on, my brother? All right, I see you take over photography on Instagram. Appreciate you for tuning in. So it's interesting, this idea of being a superhero. And I also think that that's pressure when we say we're saving people. So I'm going to respectfully challenge this narrative, because I think when we have that weight on us, we don't save people or they don't get better. I know that that's been where I am. And I told you before we started this, like I went away this weekend, took me a day trip, did a weekend getaway, just to get away, to reset. And I got to practice what I preach, right? And I felt overwhelmed. I felt discouraged. I felt disappointed. I felt sad. I didn't feel effective. And I felt like because I wasn't holding all of that, right, that I wasn't being a good example for people that are saying, you know what, you're a psychotherapist. You're supposed to know how to handle all this, and you're supposed to be okay, right? And you're supposed to have it together all the time. And I feel like, bump that.
Right.
Bump that.
Facts.
Everybody that's listening, bump that. I think what we have to be able to do is be human and be vulnerable and be able to say this stuff so that other people will realize we're not superheroes. Because when we say we're superheroes, it makes it seem like we're so different than everybody else, and that there's something more profound about us, that we can take it all on and we'll be able to save everybody. And I think that sets the wrong precedence, that people can't save themselves. And I'm coming from the place of I've been in a soul searching place as a therapist, that I don't even want to help people anymore. I want to be useful. I don't even want to have people like me. I just want to be effective, right? When you sit across from me, I want to be able to ask you questions. And all of this happened because I met this psychotherapist named Elliot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This psychotherapist named Elliot Connie, who is a solution-focused therapist. And I've been training, I've been listening, and I've been thinking about, why am I starting to get burnt out? And I realized, because this is where I'm prepared and maybe I'm a little bit different, as I said, I don't want to be the little hamster on the wheel running. There has to be a more effective way to do what I'm doing, because people's problems are becoming more intense. Life in the world seems to be overwhelming with this presidential debate that's going on, the increase of community violence that's going on, and the pressure for me to be great and to always be smiling and to be on and to be approachable and to be like this brand that I've created, your favorite around the way therapist. The idea of being someone's favorite or someone's number one puts a certain level of pressure, of likability.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what, folks? Y'all ain't always gonna like me, and I got to be okay with that.
And that's real.
So I don't know about wanting to be a superhero no more.
Well, listen, I love pushback. I adore it, but I got to get some pushback too.
Go ahead. That's what this is all about.
We are called to be different, though. At the end of the day, I hear what you're saying. We're meant to be different because we can handle and speak to certain things that other people can't. You're a therapist, you definitely different. Psychotherapist, you're definitely different. I'm a life coach. There are certain things that I'm going to be different about. So it's going to be certain individuals that flock to me, and I'm like, they know for a fact, I can go to Chris and I can get this particular answer. I can go to Coach La and get this particular answer and get this particular help. Or what is it? You said you
said influence. So
what you said is something else. I hate that I can't remember. You said you didn't want to be in a position of helping, but you want to be in a position of making it useful. People can go to you and know that Coach La is useful. I can get something from her.
Yes.
So we're meant to be different. And dare I say, you're also a superhero. But the thing, what happens with us as we get older and wiser, because in my 20s, I was just reckless with my gift, trying to save everybody like I was Jesus Christ. That's not my responsibility. That's when balance with us, we got to keep things balanced, and we got to come to that understanding. Like you said, taking a road trip. I can't listen. There are going to be times when people dislike me. There are going to be times when people do like me. There are going to be times when I don't want to be bothered by people. There are times when I'm like, bring it all in. I'm restored. I'm energized. I got y'all. I can put the community on my back. We can make it rock. And then there are times when I'm like, listen, y'all on your own for a week. I ain't got it. But there's just balance at the end of the day. We're all superheroes. We are called to be different. Nothing else, man. But that's the pushback right there.
I'm gonna use that though, and that's what I want people to tap into, is that we're all superheroes and we're all meant to be different. And what me and Chris possess, you possess too in your own unique way. What I think is that we are catalysts, we are channels, we are like battery chargers, right? Like, those things. What's those things you put in the car that helps you charge a battery? What you call them?
Jumper cable.
The jumper cables. I'm like a jumper cable.
Yeah, I'm a jump start.
I'm a jumper cable, right? I'm a useful tool because you already have a battery. You already have something in you
that's good,
that allows you to do what you need to do, right? And so it's just, how do you get that energy out of yourself? What do you need to do to become your best version of yourself? And I think people have it in them. I feel like when people come and sit at my virtual couch, and then for the few that do come face to face, they already know the answers to a lot of things.
Yeah, they just got to talk it out, right?
Right. They usually know, or what it is that they maybe haven't said it out loud, or if they say it out loud, they're afraid of judgment or their guilt and the shame associated with it. But what I'm finding is people deep down know what the source of their pain is.
I agree.
Even though they say, oh, I don't know. People use that. That's the go-to word all the time. I don't know.
Nah, you know what's wrong with you.
I think people know. They know what they're grappling with. They know what their struggles are. The question becomes, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And so we talked about purpose earlier, right? And I always ask people on the show, like, what does therapy mean to them? Right? So I really had no clue that my purpose was really grounded in my ability to talk, in my vocal cords. All my life, I was told I was talking too much. I needed to be quiet. I had a big mouth. Sit down. She's always helping people. She's always in someone's face. She's too friendly. It was not seen as a purpose. It was seen as something that I needed to stop doing.
Tone down,
right? So I just wonder, when we think about therapy, I know therapy helped me to channel and to really see that my purpose was really grounded. And I would also say coaching, life coaching. But for you, what does therapy mean to you?
That's a good question. And never really gave it too much thought. When I think about therapy, I think about like a stretching. Like you're going to be put in that uncomfortable position, to express yourself, to talk it out, to dive deep, probably deeper than you've ever been before in your life. So I would think about, when I think about therapy, you just answered that question. That's the only thing that came to mind was stretch.
Yeah.
I'm about to stretch you. That therapist, whoever you're talking to, they're going to stretch you out.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're going to space yourself out. You're going to expand, and we're going to get to we're going to grow you up. When I think about stretching, you're growing up right then and there, even from 1 session to 2 sessions to 3 sessions, however long it's going to take. You're growing. So you're stretching yourself, man, to beyond the limit. And for me personally, when I think about that as a life coach, when I talk to men and I talk to youth, I always talk to them about hardship. And I, even to this day, I apply it to myself. You mentioned the 10 miles. That was hardship right there. I'm like, let me run 10 miles and let me test my limits. So when I say stretching, that's it right there. I'm like, you're breaking barriers, you're breaking limitations. And we're going to get down to like who you truly are. You're someone great. You're someone amazing. You're someone that's powerful. You're someone that's strong. You're someone that's full of purpose in life and light. So when I think about therapists, and I did have a therapist before, the guy, he the real good brother, but he made me come out of my comfort zone.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't and I'm an introvert. So he was like, yo, it ain't finna be no small talk. I'm like, I want you to go deep. He'll ask a question and I give a response. And he was like, no, that ain't gonna cut it. I need for you to go deeper. Like, what's behind all of that? So he stretched me to communicate, to talk, to open up and become a better version of myself. So therapy to me is like, it stretches a person to, just come out of that place of just, being the low version of you and coming up to being the higher version of you, your best self, so therapy is dope. I love it.
Well, you heard it here first, right here on Conversations with Coach Locke. Coach Chris said he loves therapy. So I know a lot of times I have come across people who don't believe in it, right? They really don't. They've never done it. They think it's a waste of time. What's the point of talking about my problems and my feelings? I actually even had, Mr. Connie Elliott actually challenge me on that and say, well, they're right. What is the point of talking about your problems? Talking about your problems don't make your problems go away. Why don't we talk about things that can help you solve
solutions? Yeah.
The problem, solutions. Why don't we talk about your strengths and what you do well and how you can do more of that to help you with moving forward? Now, I think there's some truth to that. I think
it is
a lot of times by people understanding that they are doing something well and there is something that's going well in their life, and us as therapists and coaches bringing attention to the things that is going well in their life by asking them the powerful questions, they can start to change their perspective that all is bad because they have this problem. It's like you have this beautiful painting and you only see the speck of what isn't right in the painting.
Yeah.
But what about all of the other things that are going on in your life? All of the other things that you have to be grateful for, to be blessed about. You don't focus in on any of those. It's only that problem. And sometimes that problem is the childhood trauma. Sometimes that problem is your marriage isn't going right, or you don't have enough money, and all of these things. And you forget that you have the degree. You forget that you have your limbs and your eyes and your brain, and that you have all these other things that could help you with solving the problem. But for whatever reason, now fear is the problem, right? You get scared. Well, what if no one uses my services? Or what if, the business fails? And you start thinking about all these other things versus what if the business works? What if you actually have an answer to someone's problem and you just need to start? Somebody said to me, if you had the cure to cancer, would you hold on to it for fear that somebody wouldn't agree with it? Or would you at least share it if it could save someone's life? So sometimes when we're not moving in purpose, sometimes when we're too scared to put that business out there, when we're too scared to make that call, when we're too scared to try that new thing, we're preventing the ability to actually solve some of our problems and to find what we said earlier, which is you need purpose. You need a purpose. And maybe your purpose in that moment is just to go to that class.
Yeah.
Maybe your purpose in that moment is just to get up and do the job that you prayed for so that you could pay that bill. And that's the purpose in that moment. But some people make it so complicated.
Yeah.
Like it got to be this big thing.
Nah. Purpose is simple.
I think it is.
It is. It's a simple thing at the end of the day. Purpose is, that feeling. The purpose is what drives you day in and day out. As soon as your feet hit the ground, it's like, what makes you feel good? Like what you about to say?
Well, I think the reality of it is that at some point we just start working, right? We start, we got a job, we got kids, we take care of our kids, we get up, we go to work.
Yeah.
And it becomes this routine. And it becomes mundane, right? And we sort of are like, is this it?
And that's not it. Let me rephrase that. I'm a bus driver, and it's dope what I do. I'm not gonna lie. What we do as bus drivers that work for the transit department, that puts a lot of meals on the tables, that pays the bills, that put roofs on a lot of people's head. To some people, that is their purpose. They enjoy being a bus driver. It's fulfilling to them.
Yes,
that's cool. But for some people, like myself, I love it. It's cool. And I appreciate it and I'm grateful, but like that's not my purpose at the end of the day. You feel me? So it doesn't it doesn't drive me day in and day out. What drives me is doing something like this. What drives me is like getting in front of a group of kids and I'm like, yo, young men, let's rock out. Let's build, one-on-one, getting with some brothers and doing the same thing. Let's have a fellowship so we can grow as Black men. So people can see the greatness, the beauty and the positivity of Black men. That's what drives me day in and day out. For me, that's my purpose. When I hit the floor, I know what I'm connected to, and I know what drives me at the end of the day. That's that, man. It is simple. I know we kind of not to downplay it too much, but purpose is simple.
Yeah.
We heard it day in and day out. When you hit the floor, what excites you? What gets you going? We said it earlier. What's wrong with you, but you know what's right with you.
Yeah.
And what makes your juices going. What creativity you have inside of you. And if you ain't fulfilling that, my friends, I'm you're not living in purpose. And you're gonna suffer at the end of the day. It's gonna be a lot of regret at the end of the day if you're not flowing in the place of purpose and creativity.
I got you. That makes a lot of sense to me. So if your purpose is indeed to influence, can't you influence everywhere? Couldn't you even influence being a bus driver? Everybody who comes on your bus that you in touch and you talk to, you are in a position all day long to hit the masses and influence every person by just saying good morning, how you doing, or saying a positive word to every person that got on your bus.
Yeah.
What you think about that?
No, that's absolutely correct. I mean, that was my starting ground. I did bus driving back when I was in Dallas, Texas. That was my starting ground. When kids came up, I was a father figure to some kids that didn't even have like a father figure at home. You feel me? So that in itself was influence. And fast forward up here to Boston, Massachusetts, I was on the SL3 going to Chelsea, dropped off a elderly lady, and she came up to me and passed me a piece of candy, like one of them old mothers in the church. It was super dope. It was cute. I was like, it put a smile on my face. And she said, "Baby, you give us hope." I'm like, I don't even know what I did to, receive that. But I do influence people. People watch me. First time I came up here and I was like on the 31 head at the Mattapan, and a young brother came up to me. He was like, "Yo, bro, like, you waited on me to come to the bus stop." Like, "Yo, man, cats don't never do nothing like that." I'm like, "All right, cool." So even that right there, like just showing that simplicity of good manners and respect, like that is influence. So yes, to answer your question, I do influence on the bus, but it hits different when I'm like in, I don't know, man, Roxbury somewhere at the library and I'm talking to a group of kids, or I'm on stage somewhere in Florida on the mic, rocking it and like speaking to a crowd of men. Or I'll go to North Carolina and I'm like talking to a group of husbands. I'm like, "Yo, bro, like, we do matter as men. We do matter as husbands. I don't care what society says." And speaking life to that particular group of individuals right there, man. So for me, like, purpose, I guess there's levels to it, Coach La, at the end of the day. I mean, there's levels of, I guess not to diminish it, but be a lower level, being on the bus and then going to like Las Vegas and talking to a crowd of like, I don't know, 200 people. That's dope.
And I'm gonna challenge him again, y'all. That's about ego.
What you mean?
Because you said low level. And I think I bring this up because this is what gets people sometimes in a place of feeling like they're stuck, and they start to think that they haven't arrived and they got to be something bigger than this, because where they're at, they feel like this is not what I'm meant to do. I'm supposed to be on this big stage. And I say all of this to tell you, I did not see myself doing this.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't see myself being a psychotherapist. I told you when I used to drive, I would pretend like I was a radio announcer.
That was dope.
Right? Like it was more of a dream. But because of my ability to change my perspective about what I was supposed to be doing, because what I thought I was supposed to be doing was being a big time investment banker wearing Brooks Brothers suits in the ivory tower and transferring people's money around and working at banks. That's what Lakeisha's plan was, right? I thought this right here was like me falling from grace, right? This was, I got laid off and I'm going to do some philanthropy work and I'm going to, give back to the community until I can get me another job working for a bank, right? This was like something I'm supposed to do once I've got to be a millionaire, right? This isn't my purpose isn't to do this. This is just something I'm doing in the interim while I'm laid off.
I heard you. Keep rocking out. Right? I heard you.
So, and then as all of this transpires, right, I end up actually doing this for a career, and I am doing what I always talked about, which was using my voice that was originally told that I talk too much. And this was always my purpose, right? And so who would have known that if I had not have adjusted my vision of what I was supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
To actually realize that this right here I'm happier doing this. And even though I'm like stressed out, and I think the reason why I'm saying this is that I'm getting further and further away from why I started pole therapy, why I started being a psychotherapist, because I branded myself as your favorite around the way therapist. And I want to go be on stages and I want to do all these things. And now the stress is coming.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to feel like I haven't arrived or not doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. I have to get back to what is my purpose. If my purpose is to be useful and to be effective and to be in a position that I can influence people, I can do that in any place, even right here at the Urban Heat.
Absolutely.
In Hyde Park through iHeartRadio. Absolutely. If I never, ever make it on a TED Talk stage, I'm still within my purpose.
Absolutely. So I got some pushback now.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
That's why,
man. I love it, man.
This is a juicy conversation.
Yeah, it is. So
y'all are listening to the Urban Heat 98.1 FM. I got Coach
drop
Chris.
that in.
Coach Chris on here. We got a lot of people up in here that's going back and forth with us in this chat. So, but go ahead. What's your pushback?
What they got in the chat going over?
Well, we got, I'm gonna throw these comments up here so people can see. Miss Sandra said people know exactly who they are.
Facts.
We got some LinkedIn users that's on here that said, "Hey, Coach La, I don't know who you are, LinkedIn user, but I see you," and they're saying absolutely. You got people on here. You got a Renee Bradley that said, "What's good, Coach Chris?"
Oh man, shout out to sis.
Yeah, she's here. And we got resilience is key, another LinkedIn user. But working in your purpose can lead to billions. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I have to agree with that. That's totally true. And so your pushback.
So my that's not ego, man. At the end of the day, that's not ego.
It's not ego.
That's not ego. I know I said lower, that's my accent talking.
It's all
lower,
right. I like
higher.
It.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Lower, higher, things like that.
Sound like Stormy Wellington when she told that girl she had a low level plate.
The
low vibrational plate. She's like, your plate is low vibrational.
That is hilarious. I haven't seen her in like probably a year, and all of a sudden she popped up on my algorithm. Yeah. Like, this sister's off the chain. She's still talking about low vibration plates Africa and whatnot. Now. Yeah, she off the chain. Eating wings, still eating them chicken wings and all the works, man. But
hey, Jessica. Okay, thank you, sis.
I love it, man. But no, that's not ego. That is not ego at the end of the day, man. Because although I enjoy the people that I impact on the bus, but again, a community influencer.
Mm-hmm.
What we doing right here?
Yeah.
I can probably impact maybe 1 or 2 people on the bus.
Right.
But with this right here, what we doing right here, we can impact thousands, millions.
Yeah.
Without what we do, speaking on stages and things like that.
I'm gonna have you being a whole different bus driver when you leave here. You're gonna be doing whole speeches from the front seat on your intercom.
I'm doing that already. Man. I'm making that happen already.
Hey, Angelina Hightower, baby. That's
what's
my
up,
songbird.
Good evening.
Good evening.
But no, it is levels to this thing at the end of the day, man. Because although the bus is great and that is a tool, but you know what purpose looks like. And you know what purpose looks like.
So you want me to go back to the definition because we talked about it earlier.
Yes, we did.
The purpose is a noun, y'all. The reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. And the verb of it is one's intention or an objective, which means that we all have purpose. We make it too complicated.
I heard what you're saying.
We make it too complicated.
But no.
If you are driving your bus and throughout the day, how many people do you think get on and off your bus during your shift? Just ballpark.
Don't do me like that. Thousands, probably.
Thousands.
But
thousands.
Everyone don't come up to me and talk to me though.
But but they don't need to. I'm challenging us to think about how do we create opportunities and change our mindset. And that's all I'm saying.
I can rock with you on that. That part is cool. My only stance is that when it comes to purposes, levels to it. You see, and my man, who was that mentioned flowing in purpose leads to what? Billions?
Yeah.
That's correct. If I'm on the bus, not to say that somebody can't come up to me and write a check for $1 billion. That is a possibility. But
look at all these TikTokers.
No, that's cool.
Right. That they starting the lady that so demure. We gonna be demure. Right.
Man, listen.
I'm just saying simple stuff. Purpose was just to get on here and tell women that they needed to be courteous and demure. Right. That was her purpose. That purpose has led her into all these other places.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Well, who decides what one's purpose is? Some people are jumping out of planes and climbing mountains, and that's their purpose. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like your kid coming and saying, "You know what, Mom? What I want to do is I want to join the circus. I have a desire to be a clown. And I'm gonna be the best clown, and I am good at it, right?
You tickled me with that.
I know that this is my purpose. I love putting on the makeup, and I love getting out the little cars, and it makes my heart sing. And I want to go be in the circus. You might think that's ridiculous.
But that's on him. But that's golden.
I was born to be in the circus, Mom. I was born to do this. So who decides? We do. You do.
Mm-hmm.
You decide. And when people start to realize and not compare what everybody else thinks and high, I get high level, low level levels, what is in your heart that makes you sing? Because it's not necessarily going to align and look the way you think it's going to look.
And so we can find a common ground with that piece right there when it comes down to a perspective. What does it look for you?
Yeah.
And again, like you said, if it does make you sing, if it does bring you joy and happiness at the end of the day, it's like you can't knock that at the end of the day.
And then how do you pivot, right? How do you pivot when my original desire, when I went to school, when I went to undergrad, right? I said, I want to understand how money works because all I see is poverty around me. I want to understand money because they didn't really teach us about money in grade school or high school. And I wanted to understand the history of Black folks, right? That was like my interest when I went to college, right? I was going to do psychology because I also figured, I want to understand the mind and how things work. Look where I'm sitting now.
Yeah.
Right? Look what I'm doing. And all of the things that I learned about money, that was really going to be necessary for me to run my own business. Right? So it was in training, but I didn't see at the time that all of that was just leading. It was building blocks. I thought that was the purpose. The purpose was to go work at a bank. The purpose was to go and move up that corporate ladder and wear Brooks Brothers suits. That's what I thought the purpose was. But I was in training all that time.
I like that.
Leading me right here.
I like that.
Right. And for the longest time, I thought this was a holding place so that I could go back to what I thought was my purpose.
Nah.
Unbelievable, huh?
Unbelievable. I can rock with that. I like that.
Oh,
I like
boy.
It. I like that. I like that.
So I think sometimes we got to learn how to pivot and realize that where we're at in those moments, we're supposed to be learning something. And maybe you're just supposed to observe the general public and get more content to understand what people need, right? You see all these people coming and going, and you can overhear so many different. It's like a focus group every day on your bus.
It is. I'm about to say it is a lot of learning lessons on the bus. One of the main things is that when I'm driving the bus, I'm protecting people because I'm the one that's steering this ship. I'm the one that's steering this bus, and I look back and I'm like, I got 80 people behind me and they're following me. So I need to be, quote unquote, driving, leading correctly because they're looking, they're observing, and their safety is in my hand at the end of the day. So I got to make sure I protect these people. But it's a lot of learning lessons when it comes to being on the bus, man. It is a classroom at the end of the day. I will give it that.
My dad, shout out to my dad and my inspiration. He passed away 6 years ago, but he was a professional driver, right? He worked for the city of Boston for the Elderly Commission, and he worked for Paul Revere.
Okay.
He also did other shuttle charter bus. So I have a special place in my heart for bus drivers, right? And I didn't realize the influence and the power that my dad had until he passed away on how many people's lives he touched and how he ran that bus and how he took care of people and how he picked up the elderly people and he talked to them and they talked about their kids. He was not your typical bus driver.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he knew then that his purpose of being able to have that bubbly personality and do all of that, just how big and how important that was, because that's a blue collar job.
Yo, you messing me up right now,
right?
Man.
That's a blue collar job.
You messing me up.
A lot of times we downgrade these blue collar jobs. The people that are cleaning these hotel rooms, the people that are making our food. We didn't realize how important these people were until we got into COVID. Then your Dunkin' Donuts and your healthcare providers and all of the people that we sometimes look at as the low level, low wage jobs became important jobs.
Yes.
And I think if we shift these perspectives, people who have those jobs will see that they have purpose and they have meaning, because people have those jobs and they're saying, I haven't arrived in life. I'm not doing enough of my life. They're looking down on themselves because of what they're doing, and they're doing honest, good work.
Yeah.
Their lives have meaning and purpose.
So is it safe to say that they have arrived?
Yes. I think we got to switch this idea that the only way to arrive is billions. There's people that live in other countries that live way less modest lives that are happy and don't have as much as we have. And they're happy.
Coach. That's good, Coach. A lot. I seen a post yesterday, actually, and this gentleman posted him outside in his cabin by the lake grilling.
Yeah.
And it was a 2-bedroom cabin, wood, like one of them back, like deep in the forest type of cabins.
Right.
And he was like, sometimes rich doesn't look like, a big old house or whatever, but the man he was at such peace. He was so happy. He's fishing, catching fish. He's grilling on his little grill and stuff like that, having a great time, serving breakfast to his family. He like, rich looks different, wealthy looks different in different ways. So yeah, perspective is everything.
It's everything. And I just want to encourage people that's listening tonight. And you know who you are that's listening, that feels like you're down on your luck and you feel like you lost your way and you don't have any meaning and you don't have any purpose because you're making it too complicated. If you were woken up this morning, you have purpose. You got oxygen in your lungs. And I think sometimes we just make it so much more complicated. And there's so many people that are unhappy and they're miserable and they have so much, right? Because we are just chasing this insatiable level of happiness, right? If I get this one more thing, I'll be happy. If I have this, I'll be happy. If I only was married, I'd be happy. If I only had this, if I only had that, I'd be in a better place. And then you get all those things and you still don't feel happy. You have it for a little bit and then all of a sudden you need something else. It's almost like happiness has now become like a drug, right? Like you got to constantly be shooting up with happiness and you ain't going to be good until you start to be grateful. Till you start to see all that you have on a daily basis.
Facts.
And you get to see that purpose is not as complicated as you're making it. You're going to be in this like stuck sort of like, I want to call it a loop. It's like a loop of like, what now? What next? Which brings me to my bet on self moment, right?
Fact. Let's roll. I'm about to say something. Go
no,
ahead.
No. Go ahead. I'm gonna bring it to the bet on self moment.
Because I'm hearing you talk, and I'm thinking about this quote, this saying from Jim Carrey. I think it was him, if I'm not mistaken. But he said he wished everybody had like millions of dollars, so they can see that doesn't equate to happiness.
That's real.
I know people frown down on the word, being content. In life, but that is a beautiful thing. Right. Don't get me wrong. You can still strive for more. But be happy with what you got right now, because it was for me personally, it was at one point what I have now, I never had before. Ooh. And I prayed for that.
Listen, did y'all hear that? Y'all are listening to the Urban Heat 98.1 FM, and we are live on iHeartRadio and every streaming platform that there exists. I make sure that I'm on. I am Coach La, your favorite around the way therapist, and tonight we're just talking about change. We're talking about transformation. Learned behavior. So a lot of this stuff is learned, right? A lot of this stuff you're mirroring what you've seen, and somebody probably told you, hope you get your life together, or they've told you what you're supposed to be, or you have this image in your mind about what success looks like, and maybe you can't let it go. You might even come from a culture that if you're not a doctor or a lawyer, you're not doing something of that caliber, then you're not successful and you haven't arrived. So what are bet on self moments? Those are those moments where you say, you know what, despite my circumstances, despite what I've been taught, despite what people may say about me, I'm going to sit and I'm going to ask myself, if not now, then when? And if not who, then me. And I'm going to take control over my own life. And I'm going to actually do what I feel would be good for me, what I would love to do. Coach Chris, tell us about some moments where you've done that recently or in the past that kind of comes to mind. I see a smile coming on your face. Yeah,
because I'm hearing you talking. The first one that come to mind is always relocating to the Boston area, man.
Yeah.
Relocating to the New England area. That was a bet on self moment. Moving from beautiful Texas, Dallas, Texas at that, just good vibe, good energy, all of that good stuff, the Southern hospitality, and coming all the way up here and like literally hitting the restart button on my life. moving out of that place of, just being comfortable, because I was very comfortable in Dallas, man. Like everything was handed to me on a silver platter. And so knowing that moving up here, I was going to be out of my comfort zone, and like, I'm literally going to have to like grow up. And just being here, and it actually did that. Like when you think about the ages of like 29, 30 on paper, or, just looking at someone, like you would say like, that's a grown man right there, but it's not. I ain't become a grown man until I hit like 30, 31, 32, and being out here on my own, making things happen. Don't get me wrong. I've had, and still to this day, I have fantastic people in my circle that like helped me, ushered me into, this Boston lifestyle. But just moving away from the stuff that I was familiar with and coming up here, like, that's difficult right there.
Yeah.
That's a bet on self moment. Like, I'm going to move from Texas, move to the New England area, move to Boston, and I'm going to make this thing happen. And like you said earlier, I didn't even think about seeing myself in this position when I got up here. Like, I was just going to be this, dude from Texas, move to Boston, and, keep my head down, work hard, and all of that good jazz right there. But now I'm on platforms talking and whatnot. And it's a beautiful feeling, man. Like, so just getting out of that comfort zone at the end of the day, man, and going through the trials and the tribulations, and again, growing up and becoming a real man.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. So, I mean, I encourage anyone and everyone, especially the men, step out of your comfort zone. Don't be caught up in fear. Don't be caught up in doubt. Even if it does come, still push through, because on the other side of that, like, it's a beautiful feeling. Like, it's prosperity behind all of that. And then, a bet on self moment. Recently, this past February, I ran my first race. Some call it a marathon, half marathon. Some call it not. But, I just call it a race until I run the actual full marathon. But I ran a race, man. It was, what was it, 10, 15 miles, something like that. This past February in Jacksonville, Florida. I wanted to put myself through a particular hardship, something I ain't never done before. I've always worked out, but it was more so, just weightlifting, lifting weights, things of that nature. But I've never been like a long distance runner. I'm like, you know what? I want to challenge myself to do something that's out of the norm. And so I did that. So I put a bet on self, trained myself, conditioned myself to be a long distance runner, and went down to Florida and killed it, man. I was so happy at the end of the day. Yeah, man. Appreciate that. Got my medal and everything at the end of the day. But again, all of this circle back around to just stepping out of your comfort zone and breaking down those, as humans, man, we put on limitations on ourselves, man.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't realize just how great of individuals that we really are. We just gotta just step out there and do it, man. Put fear to the side, put doubt to the side. Hell, throw caution to the wind and take that calculated risk and just be great.
I like it. Shout out to my sister, Mina Shea Styles Journey. Shout out to Miss Wonder with Dating Reset. We see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I tell you, right, every time I have an episode of Conversations with Coach La, and I have people come and sit on the virtual couch, I feel like it is a transfer of energy, right? And so people go to church, people read, people do different things like that. But I think you have to have spaces that fill you up. And I think what you have to be able to do is sometimes create those spaces yourself, right? You have to create avenues that are going to sharpen your saw, and they're going to help you to get that strength, right? Because we all have those moments where, we get weary. I saw, shout out to my videographer, Jay Hunt. He said, as an entrepreneur, he was having those moments where he was asking himself, why am I doing this? Right. But I don't think that happens regardless of what it is. I think, truth be told, people say, why did they get married? Why did I have these kids? why did I move up here? I think whenever you make a decision, there's these moments where you go, did I do the right thing?
Yeah.
Was this the right move?
Yeah.
I didn't expect this. I didn't expect that. Maybe this was wrong, right? And you start to go to people and ask them for their opinions. And depending on who you go to, some people might give you some good advice, and somebody else might give you something that's totally just outlandish. Or somebody might say something like, I don't know why you did that anyway, right? So I seen this video on I don't know who the speaker was, but he talked about relationships. You might have seen it if you guys follow if you're a member of the Conversations with Coach Lime conversationalist page. And he said, that's not the time to chastise somebody when they're drowning or when they're going through something.
Agreed.
That's when you give them a life jacket and you help them stand up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm paraphrasing this, y'all, but how often do we see someone floundering, struggling, having a hard time, and instead of giving them a hand or offering some assistance or help, what we do is we judge, we criticize them, right? And I think that right there, more than anything else, is what stops people from trying things for fear of what if it doesn't work, and then having to deal with not just themselves, but people looking and going, well, I don't know why you did that.
Mm-hmm.
That was foolish. That was dumb. Or, that never made no sense. It's those moments of not being able to accept failure. And us not embracing that. We're always learning. Failure is just part of the process of stretching yourself.
Yeah, you're talking good, man.
It's just part of stretching yourself, right? You set yourself a realistic, smart goal, and you work towards the goal. If you don't make the goal, then you go back and you pivot and you recalibrate and you change some things and you learn. You're always going to learn, and I think betting on self is giving yourself that space, right? And that's why I say purpose is not as challenging as we make it.
I love it.
Purpose can change because, again, I'll go back to the definition, y'all, so y'all can see it's not hard. Right? The reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. We were created to live. When you were born and you came in this world, your purpose was to live. Now, what you do with it after that, what other things you come up with, and whatever goals you give yourself,
it's on you.
But your main purpose is to live. So if you get up, you can breathe, right? And you wake up every day and you say, thank you, Lord, for giving me another day. Thank you, Lord, for the ability to see. There's somebody that if they just woke up and they could just see, they would be great.
Yeah.
If they could just get out the bed without assistance, they would be
some
great.
Realness to that.
Right?
That's real.
So
That's
I just think sometimes we got to simplify it to find something. This is not for everybody. This is for that one person that's listening right now that need find that one thing every day to be grateful.
My goodness, man. I felt that.
And that becomes your purpose for right now until you get a new one.
There's levels to this thing. I love that. There's levels to that.
See, I just helped you with your levels. I'm not going to say that it ain't true that there's not levels, but I think there's levels to everything, right? Because we're growing.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
you got that beginner stage, you got the intermediate, and you got the advanced.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you at the beginning stages of purpose.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I look. This is what I like. If you can't handle an entire day, break that day up in like hours.
That's right.
If you can't handle the entire hours, like break it up into like minutes. Like
That's
take it one step at a time.
That's
you
right.
ain't gotta run, if it's time for you to walk. And you ain't gotta walk if it's time for you to crawl. As long as you're making progress at the end of the day. Basically, that's what we're saying.
Right.
You're making progress at the end of the day, you good.
You want to get 1% better than you were the day before.
That's it.
Right.
And that's simplicity.
And there was this I think I read this article, I've read this article about a guy who was doing, I think Uber or Lyft, and he changed his perspective about doing that and just did simple things, some mints, water, newspaper, opened up people's doors.
Yeah.
Right. He changed his perspective and connecting with people every day. And he ended up making like 6 figures from doing that, from the tips and things that he was getting, because he did those. He just changed his mindset that I'm gonna be the best Lyft driver, and my purpose right now is to be the best Lyft driver that I'm gonna be.
That's it right there. Perspective. It changes everything.
It changes everything.
It changes everything, man.
Whatever it is you're gonna do, do it to the best of your ability.
And what they say, Coach Lai, they say, listen, you can have a beautiful, blessed life if you just change your mind. Like if it all starts up here at the end of the day. It starts in the mind at the end of the day.
And when we said today was about transformation and learned behaviors, is that what I want to really encourage people to do is to think about how they've learned to think the way that they think.
Mm.
And what about that do you want to change? Like if you could change one thing about your thinking to bring you someplace else, what would you change? Can you believe this? Hold on.
The unexpected, unorthodox radio from Boston and beyond. Meet 981fm.com and iHeartStation.
Y'all know what that means, right? This conversation is about to be over. Coach Chris, thank you. You got to come back.
Absolutely. I'm down.
This has been a great conversation.
I didn't even know it's been an hour.
I know.
Already.
See y'all next Sunday. Have a great night, everybody. Peace. Good night. With